Do you ever have those times where you put a game on the shelf, you think, I'll play this another day, and then suddenly, it might be a few months, few years maybe even later, and then you come back and play it and think, what the fuck was I doing? I should have played this straight away. Well, that's exactly what happened to me when I played Alan Wake 2. So I'm going to give just some of my thoughts, how I found it, but if you couldn't tell, I thought it was one of the best games I've maybe ever played. Looking back at 2023, it was a year stacked with high quality games, and at the time I just couldn't play them. On the 6th of September, Baldur's Gate 3 released on PS5, one of the best RPGs of all time. And as some of you may know, it's not a short game. And after 100 hours or so, I finally finished the game. Now, this took me a couple of months. Unlike some, my setup doesn't currently look like this. Right after I'd finished Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man 2 dropped. Another banger game on the 20th of October for my personal favourite superhero. So suddenly, caught in the middle of all of these releases was Alan Wake 2 on the 27th of October. I'd never played the first game, so I just saw this as one to possibly come back to in the future. And at the end of 2025, I saw it as the right time to finally try both Alan Wake 1 and 2. I have in my personal life just moved to Finland, and this is where Remedy, the studio behind the franchise, are based. And Remedy had also just announced a sequel to their other series, Control Resonant. My only experience with Remedy to this point was Control, another title in the Remedyverse. I have played this as one of the first games on my PS5 through the PS Plus offer, making it free, and I did really enjoy my time with the game when I did play it back then. I started with the remastered original of Alan Wake, which I may dissect more in the future, but Alan Wake 2 was just a massive glow up from the first game and had a lot more to say about it. It's not to say that the first one is at all bad, but some of the technology, the controls, gameplay, it's all just advanced a lot since it released back in 2010. Alan Wake 2 is just simply a huge step up from the first game. And you can see that's exactly what Remedy had been doing. They'd been in the lab, cooking up something special, and this game shows just how far they have come from that original entry, and also from Control. This game is nothing short of a masterpiece for me. There are some minor flaws, but it doesn't stop the game from truly shining in a modern gaming industry that can often fall flat with most games that are released nowadays. The most important part with this series, and I include Control in this, is Remedy are unequivocally themselves. You can feel and see the studio's passion in the game. It's not trying to fit itself into a box and be like other games, and that is most importantly what makes it special and a memorable experience for years to come. Okay, so if you don't already know, what is this game about? The game itself follows two main characters, of Saga Anderson and Alan Wake. Now, this bit is a large spoiler for the first game, so click off if you'd like no spoilers. But Alan himself is a famous author. He was known for his detective book series about Alex Casey. He'd been on vacation in Bright Falls, Washington, a small American town, with his wife Alice 13 years ago. Alice was trapped in a supernatural place called the Dark Place and was rescued by Alan in the first game from this place, but he has now been trapped there ever since. The story of the sequel picks up from the events of the first. Saga works for the FBI and is called into Bright Falls to investigate a cult that has murdered some locals with her partner, Alex Casey. No, not the fictional character, he is an actual person. Saga discovers that Alan Wake is somehow connected to the murders. She finds manuscript pages written by Wake detailing the murders and events that will happen in the future. Alan Wake is trapped in the Dark Place himself and is tormented by an evil version of himself called Scratch. Alan is desperately trying to escape the Dark Place, and to do so he must rewrite the manuscripts to his book. You see, the special thing about Bright Falls is that reality changes by the Dark Presence. It preys upon creatives and their stories, and uses this to alter reality, both in the Dark Place and the area of Bright Falls. This works as an interesting story tool, as it leads to questions throughout the game where you are questioning constantly what is real and what is not. Now, I'm not going to sit here and explain all of the intricacies of the plot, as it would take me all day, and as well, I want people who haven't to experience the game for the first time for what it truly is, because it is a truly special experience, And there's also other 7-hour long videos you can find on YouTube breaking all of that down if you'd like to see more. The plot itself though is thematic with all Remedy games. It's crazy, it doesn't always make 100% sense to you right away, but all of the plot points and stories and characters' motives, they all conclude towards the end of the game. They seem obvious at first about what might happen, but they're not at all, and what I was expecting to happen just didn't. Everything about the story feels extremely thought out, and the more you progress through the game, it just keeps drawing you deeper and deeper, and you want to investigate more, but it always leads you to having more questions. The stories of the two characters are intertwined, and after the first couple of hours, the game does allow you to play the chapters for each character at your own choice. This gives you an interesting way to play the game, so in order for the story you enjoy the most, you can keep playing with that character. Saga's story follows her in Bright Falls in the present day, whilst Alan's is set in the recent past when he was in the Dark Place. Personally, I did try and go sort of back and forth between the characters after a chapter. When I had finished it, it just felt like the most natural way to play the game for myself. I love this design choice though, as it allows you to experience the game the way you want to play. It gives the player freedom to experience the game how you like it. And if you prefer one character, you can choose to go through all of their story up until the finale. There is a point towards the end where you do have to have both characters at the end of their storylines to be able to progress. The aspect of having two playable characters is a change from the first entry. In the first game, you only played as Alan Wake. Maybe 3 if you count the short introduction as Robert Nightingale with his arse out. But I think Saga Anderson was a great addition to this game. Often in sequels, it can be tough to tie in a whole new playable protagonist or character at all for that matter. But in this, it's executed to perfection within the story, and Saga just feels as though she was part of the story all along. Now, all of the characters that are in this game are brilliant. Alan Wake is a changed man compared to the first game. In the first game, he comes across as this really arrogant, famous writer. He comes to a small American town, and he feels bigger than everyone else, and he believes no one there but himself. In the sequel, however, he is a lot more grounded, and this seems fair enough, seeing as he has been stuck in the Dark Place for the last 13 years. His tone matches that of someone stuck in the same place for a long time. He's completely out of his mind, and he's a lot grittier compared to himself in the initial game, where he has some incredible one-liners that he comes out with. As well as writing and directing this game, industry treasure Sam Lake also stars in the game as Alex Casey, an FBI agent that shares the name of the character from Alan Wake's crime thriller books. Casey shares a great relationship with Saga that unravels throughout the story, and it shares the layers throughout, just not to their working relationship but their friendship that they have together. The further the game goes, we learn more about the reasons of why Casey is involved, and like Saga, he just feels like he has been part of this story the whole time and fits in really nicely. As a side note, I personally really enjoyed the Koskela brothers. These are 2 Finnish brothers who have immigrated to America and live in Bright Falls, and they were not originally in the first game. Living in Finland myself and having Finnish family and being aware, of course, of Finnish culture, some of the commercials and interactions with them I just found hilarious and give some really good light-hearted moments in an otherwise terrifying horror game.
Alma beer is a traditional Finnish lager, and we drink it the Finnish way.
At the bar while actively avoiding small talk with strangers. Getting blackout drunk on a boat during midsummer and trying not to drown. In the sauna, using your beer can to hide your pippeli from wandering eyes. Partaking in the Finnish tradition of kalsarikännit, drinking at home alone in your underwear with no intentions of going out.
It's not sad if it's intentional.
Bright Falls has a sauna and a theme park as well, coffee world, because if there's 2 things that Finnish people do love, it is the sauna and coffee. Remedy could have chosen to make this just a normal, generic, rural American town to really fit that horror genre, but they had the addition of their own cultural elements into Bright Falls, and that's what makes the setting and the game unique and memorable. I could talk about all the characters in the game. There is so much thought, care and craft that went into each character to complete the package and make the game what it is, a true masterpiece of modern gaming. Now, the pinnacle and most impressive part of Alan Wake 2 has to be the atmosphere. This game won 3 awards at the 2023 Game Awards, including the Best Game Direction, the Best Narrative, and the Best Art Direction. So a special mention to some of those who created this visually stunning experience. So you had lead character artist John Crossland, and as well environment artist Anne Lynn Sotas. The game does just a fantastic job of creating 2 entirely different atmospheres for both Saga Anderson and Alan Wake, with familiar but different feels to them. During both stories, the atmosphere is tense, enemies feel intimidating, like they could appear at any moment. Saga's story involves the Cult of the Tree, a twisted group who we see in the opening scene of the game, killing and taking the heart out of the chest of the former FBI agent Robert Nightingale. Whilst wandering the area of Bright Falls, everything comes across as a normal town, but then once you progress into the woods and dark, comes the atmosphere changes, and there is a foreboding sense with nothing but your flashlight to see. There are symbols of the cult scattered around as well, and the intense music will continue to build, and you have that sense that a cult member is going to be around any corner.
Christ!
Now, the best part of Saga's story for me had to be the sections called The Overlaps. Now, this isn't a spoiler, it's just mainly just talking about some of the details of them. But these are areas in which reality and the dark place merge, and they have a long history of violence associated with them. Within are Bright Falls locals that have become taken by the dark presence, waiting to stalk you within them. The atmosphere in these areas, particularly the first 2 of Robert Nightingale in Cauldron Lake, and also a later one in Coffee World at the Huatari Well, these are some of the best experiences I've ever had in gaming, especially in horror games. And perhaps even better than some of you may know, something like Resident Evil 7, that's one of my personal favourites, it may even be the heights of that. You are hit with frequent jump scares from the taken locals, and I just kept jumping out of my seat, even when I was prepared for them. The music as you slowly walk around is eerie and intense and fitting to the disturbing area that keeps sending you around in loops whilst you're being stalked by the Taken.
He's here. Nightingale.
In one of the later overlaps, the theme is around a child drowning in an old military bunker, and these dark themes are constant in the game. Remedy didn't hold back, and including these dark topics in the game make the story and the gameplay feel that much more immersive and intense to play. The other half of the story follows Alan Wake in the Dark Place. The Dark Place is set in the area around Alan Wake's New York apartment and is inspired by his books on Alex Casey. The area has a really classic film noir setting. It has these glowing neon signs, a really dark setting to it. Walking around the Dark Place as Alan, everywhere you turn are these shadowy figures of people shouting, "Wake!" constantly at you. These shadowy figures can sometimes be enemies and sometimes not, so this makes you wary to go around carelessly with your flashlight and so that you do not aggro them. As Alan, we are trying to escape the Dark Place and rewrite his manuscripts to stop the Dark Presence. During his time here, he must visit murder sites to help him delve deeper into this alternate reality and learn more about where he is so that Alan can write an authentic ending to the manuscript and stop the Dark Presence and save everyone. These murder sites are part of the horror manuscript Return, written by Scratch, or the Dark Presence. The sites can be altered in real time with Wake changing the scene and the level design as well at the same time. The best of these for me was one later called the Ocean View Hotel, a place where the Cult of the Word, a cult that operated in 2013 in the real Alan Wake universe, tried to summon Wake himself by committing murders in the hotel. Now, at the end of this chapter, there is one of the most horrific moments as our playthrough as Alan Wake, with a destructive path of blood and bodies left behind. It's one of the most powerful parts of storytelling, and we see the power of the Dark Presence just through the environment. Now, I couldn't mention Alan Wake's time in the Dark Place without one of the best moments maybe ever in video game history. It has this complete break from the horror of the majority of the game, and anyone who's played the game, I'm sure it's the first thing you'll think of when discussing it. It's been in my head, stuck for weeks later, and I'm sure it will be for years to come. I don't want to spoil anything, as anyone who hasn't played the game, I would love for them to just experience it the way I did, where you didn't know anything and it left you completely surprised, but with a truly, truly special experience and memory. I love Remedy though for adding something like this to the game. It's part of the brilliance of it, and it just works to absolute perfection. Going back to what I originally said about Remedy putting the passion into the game, this scene just shows them being themselves. It adds a mix of live action with the gameplay and this catchy tune into a horror game. It's really strange, but it just works completely, and it's going to be remembered forever whenever anyone wants to discuss Alan Wake 2. Okay, so I've gone on and on about how this game is a masterpiece, but I do have one sort of flaw or letdown to talk about, and that is the gameplay. Now, with the gameplay, firstly, the enemies, they are all relatively similar. So we have a few different variants, a meleeer, an axe thrower, there's this floating character that reappears everywhere, or the classic video game heavy, where the bigger the enemy, then the more health they have to have. So all of the enemies have the same gameplay loop though, which is you shine your flashlight at them to remove the shield and then you shoot them in the head. So for me, this just didn't feel that great by the sort of 20-hour mark. Towards the end of the game, it gets a little bit repetitive. The game though does use light in a really interesting way to guide you around, and anytime you see light, you see it as this brief respite, and you know that you're going to be safe, and it gives you that nice sense of relief. It feels a whole lot better as well than some of the cliche yellow lines that you have come across to see in lots of modern video games. The light feels fitting into the gameplay, the atmosphere, and the whole look of the game. Don't get me wrong, the gameplay in Alan Wake 2 though is still strong, and it is suitable for the genre of a horror game. Gameplay is slower with few enemies that make encounters feel intimidating. If you do or have played the first game before this, it does feel a whole lot better by comparison. When I played the first game, the shooting was so loose and with fast movement, it felt more like an action-adventure game than a horror, and really took away from my experience. Remedy really learned a lesson of what they wanted to achieve in the sequel, and the gameplay feels much more fitting for a horror game, and it really helps build that atmosphere and intensity in the game. Now, the gameplay of both Saga Anderson and Wake are also very similar, and that's quite disappointing. So the weapons are basically the same for each character. They both have a pistol, a shotgun, and then a few types of different unique equipment for each character. Wake, for example, has a flare gun, but you rarely get any ammo for this except sort of certain areas where it'll give it to you where needed. And as Saga, you can obtain a crossbow and a rifle through searching around, but it doesn't really change up the gameplay that much. There are a couple of differences between Saga in the present day and Wake in the Dark Place. So with Saga, they did choose to make light your friend, and the flashlight is used to remove, as I mentioned, the enemy shields, and also you need it to see in most locations because it's so dark. Now, with Wake, you can choose to take down enemies in the Dark Place, but however, the light can sometimes be a hindrance. So with it, you can be caught if the flashlight is left on. So this can sometimes make it better to walk around as Alan Wake without the flashlight on. And I found that Wake didn't have as much ammo, so it made it a little bit interesting where you could have this difference of not having to always rely on the flashlight. So both characters have different ways to improve their abilities. Saga has the ability to upgrade her weapons. This felt a bit uninspiring for me because the first upgrade that I got was for the shotgun, and it gave you the ability to regenerate health upon killing an enemy. So for me, this meant that I used the weapon for the entirety of the playthrough. I didn't need any health packs or anything like that to heal, and it sort of took away from that survival element of the game. Wake has these things called Word of Power. So these are strange, bright markings of words on the wall, and you can only see them with the flashlight. They give him lots of different abilities, so these can be to do with his weapons or as well just his character. I didn't find too many of these after the first chapters, so with them, the abilities for me didn't feel too interesting. Maybe that's my fault for not going around and finding more, but again, there was really obvious upgrades for me. You got one for regenerating health from the Words of Power, so you could gain 50% health from finding one. Again, for me, I took this right away, and it meant anytime I found a Word of Power, I instantly got my health back, again, taking away from that survival element. Now, one of my favourite parts of the gameplay was Saga's Mind Place and Case Board. So in game, it works as a place that you can visit at any moment with the press of a button, and it provides a view of all the different cases Saga is working on, and you can also view all of the different evidences that you have collected so far. I love this idea that as a detective you had a place to store all the information that you have so far. It reminded me of something like LA Noire, trying to piece together what is going on, and this really helped the mystery of the story, especially in the early parts of the game. Part of Saga's Mind Place is her ability to profile characters in the game that she has met and understand what the characters she has met truly mean or feel. So originally I felt that this was a really strange addition to the game, and I was a bit confused by this. But in the end, this ability also tied into the story, and it was really part of the brilliance of the game. Everything was accounted for and made sense and had a purpose to it. Something that some other modern AAA titles often forget, looking at games like Call of Duty. So, overall, I think this is just an absolute must play for everyone out there. The story of the game's engaging and complex, the characters have fantastic personalities, and it plays out as this excellent crime detective horror story with an atmosphere that's truly unmatched in the genre. With Alan Wake 2, Remedy made a true masterpiece. It encapsulates what gaming is, making memorable experiences that people are going to remember, not shallow products simply made to try and make money. There's nothing truly like this game out there. Yes, there are many other fantastic horror games, but this game just feels truly special. Remedy made an experience that is what gaming should be about, making something by creatives like Sam Lake and the rest of the team at Remedy that push the boundaries of gaming, not just in graphical fidelity. Don't get me wrong, this game is absolutely stunning, but making something that people are going to remember and experience. I cannot wait for Control Resonant, and I don't know how Remedy are going to top themselves with that, but I am ready to be proved wrong, as Remedy always seems to keep raising the bar, ignoring one of the recent releases. I feel like a lot of other games nowadays are just copy and pasted. Many other developers seem to be releasing generic games like yet another third-person open-world RPG with tick-box objectives to do. At Remedy, it's all about making high-quality creative experiences that they want to make for the players. They're not wholly influenced by investors and other modern gaming trends with the sole intention of just making money. Many games now, they often lack that aspect, and too often products are just released to make money and not experiences for the players. One of the best parts of Alan Wake 2, just before I finish, is the length of the game. It's a nice tight 20-hour adventure, much like what we would have got in the past with some of those iconic titles. I'm looking at things like BioShock, where we get a nice close-knit story that's thoroughly thought out. Nowadays, lots of games, they're aiming to be that next big open world RPG with lots of objectives and everyone can spend all of their time within the game. And these are fantastic, and I've had a great time playing some of these games, some of them being my favourite games of all time, things like The Witcher 3. But I think gaming often lacks nowadays this genre of games that you only have sort of a nice tight 20 hours. Alan Wake 2 will go down as a fantastic game for not trying to be the best in an already cluttered genre, but by breaking the mould and differentiating from its competition. And I, for one, I'm not going to make that same mistake again. Remedy have shown just how fantastic they are as a developer, and I'll be showing my full support for all of their future releases, and I can't wait to see what they have in store with Control Resonant. Okay, so that's it on my thoughts and my first review I've ever done. Thank you for clicking on, and if you have spent any time at all watching the video, I really appreciate it. If you could share your support, like, subscribe, or let me know in the comments what you thought about Alan Wake 2. It'd be really interesting to see what some of you think, and if you'd like to see me go through Alan Wake 1 and some of my thoughts that I had on that in a little bit more detail, I'll be happy to share them, so just let me know.
We're going to a cool guy's house to drink some brewskis. Are you coming? No, Ilmo. I'm very busy wearing a turtleneck and drinking wine like an asshole.